Rishu was the kind of boy who never raised his hand in class, not because he didn't know the answer, but because he feared the laughter that followed when he got it wrong. He was 13, thin as a stick, always wearing oversized clothes donated by the school charity box. His shoes made a flap-flap sound as he walked, one sole hanging loose. Students didn't bully him directly, but worse, they ignored him, as if he didn't exist. Every report card was a reminder that he wasn't enough. Math, 12 out of 100. Science, 17 out of 100. English, 24 out of 100. Remarks, needs serious improvement. His father, a mechanic, never missed a chance to compare him with neighborhood toppers. Look at Buntai, always first in class. And you? Always last. Rishu's mother, once his biggest supporter, had stopped defending him. Her silences now stung more than her scoldings. He had learned to live in the shadows, at the back bench, in the corner of group photos, in the last lane of the colony. Even the school peon forgot his name sometimes. Then came the annual class photograph. Rishu stood at the far end as usual, looking at the school's red brick walls instead of the camera. The photographer joked, "Smile, boys." Except the sleepy one at the end. The class laughed. Rishu pretended he didn't hear. But his chest felt tight, like holding back tears on a public bus. One evening, after another failed exam, Rishu sat alone under a broken streetlight. He took out the test paper and looked at the big red F. Then slowly, he tore it into tiny pieces and let them fly in the breeze. "Am I really that useless?" he whispered. Suddenly, something strange happened. A small, dusty notebook fell out of his school bag. It was his secret book where he wrote short stories in doodled characters no one knew about. One page read, "The Fish Who Wanted to Fly." Another had a sketch of a boy made of stars, climbing a ladder into the clouds. He stared at it, heart pounding. These were his dreams, his creations, something he was actually good at. Something he had never shown anyone. He closed the book, hugged it tightly, and whispered to himself, "I may be last in class, but maybe I'm not last in life." That night, he didn't sleep crying. For the first time in a long time, Rishu fell asleep with hope, like a tiny spark inside a matchbox. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change. The new English teacher walked into Class 8B on a rainy Monday morning. Her name was Miss Kavita, and she had a calm smile, the kind that made even the loudest students fall silent. She was in her 30s, wore simple cotton saris, and carried a cloth bag full of books and bookmarks. No one knew much about her, but there was something different in the way she looked at students, as if she actually saw them. During roll call, she paused at Rishu's name. "Rishu?" He raised his hand hesitantly. She nodded. "Good morning." He blinked. No teacher had ever greeted him like that. Later that week, she gave the class an assignment. "Write a short story," she said. "Any topic. Just make sure it comes from your heart." Most students groaned. Rishu, however, froze. That night, he opened his secret notebook and stared at the old story, "The Fish That Wanted to Fly." He copied the story onto clean paper, carefully, nervously, but with passion in every word. He folded it and submitted it with trembling hands. It felt like handing over a piece of his soul. 2 days passed. Then came Friday. Miss Kavita entered class with a stack of stories. "I read every single one of your submissions," she said. Some were funny, some thoughtful, but one stood out. Everyone leaned forward. She held up a paper. This story, about a small fish who dreams of flying, was written by Rishu. Dead silence. Rishu's ears turned red. He felt like hiding under the desk. Surely this was a mistake. But then, something unexpected. She smiled warmly and continued, "This story has imagination, feeling, and courage. Rishu, would you come and read it aloud?" Rishu stood, knees shaking. His voice cracked at first. But slowly, as he read about the little fish who built wings from fallen feathers and leaped into the sky, the class grew quiet, then curious, then amazed. When he finished, the room was still. Then one clap. Then another. Then the entire class clapped. Rishu stood there, stunned. Ms. Kavita walked to him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You're a storyteller," she said softly. "And the world needs your stories." That day, Rishu didn't walk home. He floated. Everything looked different, the trees, the road, even the sky. He no longer felt invisible. Someone had seen his light, and turned it on. Later that evening, he showed his notebook to his mother. She read the first story and wiped her eyes. "You really wrote this?" she whispered. He nodded. She smiled and said, "Maybe you're not like the others. Maybe you're something more." For the first time, Rishu believed it. The auditorium was filled with bright lights and brighter faces. Hundreds of students, teachers, and parents waited, buzzing with excitement. The banner above the stage read, "National Youth Inspiration Conference, guest speaker, Rishabh Arora, author of The Fish That Flew." Rishu, now Rishabh, adjusted the mic on his collar and took a deep breath behind the curtains. He was no longer the shy boy in oversized clothes. He wore a crisp black shirt, formal trousers, and confident shoes. But inside, his heart beat with the same nervous rhythm of his childhood. The host called out, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a man who turned failure into fuel. A storyteller. A fighter. A dreamer." The crowd clapped. As Rishabh stepped onto the stage, he looked out. Rows of eager faces stared back at him. In the front row sat his mother, proud and tearful, and next to her was his old English teacher, Ms. Kavita. He smiled, then spoke into the mic. "I was once the last boy in class," he began. "Not because I was lazy, but because I was lost." He paused. "I failed in exams. I failed in confidence. I failed in myself." The crowd fell silent. "But one day, a teacher believed in me. She saw beyond my marks and found my voice." He turned toward Ms. Kavita, who smiled with teary eyes. "I wrote a story about a fish who wanted to fly. Everyone said it was impossible. But the fish believed. And so did I." People listened, not just with ears, but with hearts. He held up his best-selling book, The Fish That Flew. "This story changed my life. And I want every student here to know something important." He looked directly at a boy in the third row who wore the same scared look he once did. "You are more than your report card. More than your mistakes. More than the voices that say you can't. You are not behind. You are just on your own timeline." Applause began to build. "You don't need to top the class. You just need to find your gift. And share it with the world." The entire auditorium erupted in applause. Backstage, a young girl whispered to her friend, "I want to be like him one day." And a teacher wrote his name on the board for the next day's inspiration session. Later that evening, Rishabh met Ms. Kavita. "You changed my life," he said. She smiled. "No, Rishu. You just finally believed in your wings." That night, Rishabh sat by his window, looking at the stars just like he did as a child. Only this time, he knew. The boy who was always last had learned how to fly.
If her story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this is Text to Heart, where stories speak to your soul and awaken your spirit.